If you're at all active within the Bleach community, then you may have heard some rumblings over the last couple of days about the possibility of a brand new console Bleach game being released at some point in the near future, perhaps to coincide with the launch of the Thousand Year Blood War Arc's anime adaptation, which of course is very exciting. As far as prospects regarding this franchise's future go, this would be way up there in terms of things I would love to see, and frankly it just makes sense to release a brand new premium title around the launch of the anime. Well, they would market each other, and frankly I think it would be a winning combination. And when you look at the history of Bleach and video games, at the point we're at now, the series and fans have been absolutely clamouring for a new quality title pretty much for over a decade now, really since Soul Resurrection launched on the PS3 back in 2011, and really all console Bleach titles just sort of ceased a little bit before the end of the anime, which I guess makes sense. So where did all this talk of a new console game come from? What would I like to see from a brand new premium Bleach title, and what do I expect to get, if anything at all? Well, in this video we're going to try and answer those questions. Before we get started, however, guys, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, make sure to do that now for more Bleach content like this every single week. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up as well, as it does help to support me and the channel, and it just means we should get more traction on the YouTube algorithm. And if you really enjoy what I do here and you want to take that support from me another step further, I do have a Patreon for the channel as well, where you can get videos like this one early, and you can support me for as little as $1 a month. Everyone who's coming up on screen right now is a patron of the channel, and they are helping me do what I love. So as always, a massive shout out to all of you. Thank you so very much. So first and foremost then, where did all this chatter of a new Bleach game suddenly spring from? Well, as always with speculation of this nature, it stems from a recent answer from Kubo himself on his Club Outside Q&A, which is something we sometimes talk about on this channel. But basically he was asked about a brand new console game, which is quite a rare question to get, and something that I decided would be worth talking about, because although Kubo really gives us the most vaguest of answer, it's an intriguing gateway to actually discuss what we might want to see from a premium Bleach title. But basically the person asking the question just kind of says, is there any kind of a Bleach console game, a new console game coming out in the near future, perhaps when the anime returns? A perfectly logical question, in my opinion. And Kubo's answer is criminally vague, as they nearly always are, as he basically just replies with, I think I heard something along those lines from the person in charge. Now, immediately, that does tell us that somebody somewhere has told Kubo that they are at least thinking of making a new mainline console-quality Bleach game, perhaps to coincide with the anime's release. And as we spoke about already, that would make a ton of sense. But realistically, Kubo's answer is about as vague as they get. Who is this elusive, enigmatic person in charge that he is talking about? Is that the person in charge of the anime, or somebody in charge of this as of yet mystery game? We have no idea. I'm presuming in charge of the anime, but that's a guess on my part. And so really, this answer of Kubo's leaves us exactly where we were before. It doesn't confirm a new game, nor does it even really deny one, but all we can do is speculate. But I think it's cool because it gives people now a chance to reignite that passion, that fervour that the fan base has for getting a brand new title of quality. In my opinion, Bleach has something of a tumultuous history when it comes to video games, and my personal experience with Bleach video games is perhaps considerably less all-encompassing than you might expect. I've only played a select few titles, and one or two of them I would even consider to be that good. Obviously, you have titles ranging from as far back as the PS2 era with the Blade Battlers series, and you also have a numerous amount of handheld titles on the DS, the PSP, the immensely popular Heat the Soul franchise, which reached its 7th installment, was a series I always wanted to play, but it was never released outside of Japan, as is the case with a number of these games. Now, that didn't mean you couldn't play Heat the Soul if you lived outside of Japan, but back in the day, for considerably younger me, that was way above my pay grade of having really any idea how to do that. So I made do with handheld titles released here in the UK, like Bleach Blade of Fate and Bleach Dark Souls. Not that Dark Souls, although I would love to see that, which is something we'll get into. But Bleach games have their way of permeating the collective community conscience for a while now, and even in my recent character popularity poll, we saw exclusive original characters popping up from games like Bleach the Third Phantom and Bleach Shattered Blade, which another one I actually played on the Wii, a somewhat limited arcade fighter that I enjoyed back in the day, but probably wasn't all that great. But it did introduce new characters like Arturo Plateado, which was always pretty cool back in the day. The final console game was released in 2011 and was the somewhat lukewarmly received Bleach Soul Resurrection on the PS3, a game I never played, but always loved the look of. I thought it was so cool that you could go through the story mode, ending it, I think, with the big deicide final battle against Aizen and his monstrous Hogyoku transformations. That was always awesome. The reason I never played it was because I never really owned a PS3, but I loved the look of that game. And I don't think it reviewed all that well, but as far as I'm aware, fans did enjoy it nonetheless. But really, the anime's return would just be the perfect time for a brand new Bleach game. Really, the mobile games have propped up the Bleach gaming circuit for quite some time now. In particular, of course, the wildly popular Bleach Brave Souls, which many have credited for helping to keep the series alive as it launched right at the end of the manga's lifespan and kind of has kept going to this very day. But there are other titles as well, like the relatively recent Bleach Immortal Soul, Bleach Paradise Lost, and Bleach itself as well has had numerous appearances in other titles as well, most notably Jump Force, which launched I think in 2019, featuring characters like Ichigo, Rukia and Aizen. If you've watched any of those videos on my channel already, you'll know that I was an avid player of Brave Souls for multiple years, and it really was responsible for operating in and out of that time where Bleach really wasn't on the scene that much, but so because of that, that game was responsible for bringing in fresh and exciting new content. The main reason I played Bleach Brave Souls was because it was the only way to see Thousand Year Blood War arc characters in some kind of animated form. Particularly when the Sternritter were introduced and the Royal Guard, I was all in. That was when it was really exciting to me. And in my opinion, that was the main service that game provided while we were waiting for some kind of announcement regarding the anime. And now that the anime's return is not only a thing, but is also imminent, now is the time to bring back a brand new console game, PS5, Series X, all that sort of thing, introducing characters from across the entire spectrum of the Bleach universe. They have the advantage now, the series is over. Not only that, but we also have supplementary light novels as well, from which you can take characters. I would love to see a modern-day Bleach game built with a roster akin to Bleach Brave Souls, that kind of character depth put into a quality premium title. So, while Kubo's words are incredibly vague and, let's be clear, confirm absolutely nothing, there is really nothing to this just yet except for the faintest glimmer of hope, that's really all the fans need to at least get excited about the possibilities. If such a game does exist and is being planned for launch around the release of the Thousand Year Blood War arc, presuming that anime adaptation, still comes out in October, it feels weird to me that we have heard nothing about this game that's maybe in the works. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't suspect this game would even come out this year if it exists at all. It's probably a 2023 release a little bit down the line. But that also makes sense as well, because then it gives anime-only viewers a chance to get to know these brand new characters before, hopefully, releasing them in a new game. But what kind of title would I like to see? What do I expect we could get if we get anything at all? Well, there are three kinds of games that I think are most suited to the Bleach universe that I think we might see. The first of these is a more traditional arcade-style fighter, the likes of Street Fighter, Tekken, or Mortal Kombat, a genre Bleach has dipped its toes into before with the aforementioned Heat the Soul games and Shattered Blade, among others. This is probably the one that I think is the most likely. However, these days you can update it, you can modernise it with amazing new visuals like some of the more recently released Dragon Ball and Naruto games, and just make it look absolutely stunning. And I think a Bleach game, given the proper treatment like that, could look wonderful. Amazing backdrops from all across the Bleach storyline. I would love and this kind of goes for all of these games, but I would want them to include as much as they can. Characters spanning all the different factions, obviously Shinigami, obviously Arankar, but really, I would be looking for a game to include Fullbringers and Quincy as well. Especially if they are waiting for the anime before they release a game like this, then there's no excuse not to include those new characters too. I think that would be immensely exciting. And really, a game like this, in this kind of style, is something that is probably, in my opinion, the most likely thing we get. The series, as I said, has a history with this kind of game already, and I think a fighter like this allows you to really focus in on the characters, give them exciting, intriguing movesets, and potentially build the biggest roster of any of these types of games. The second type of game I could see them making is a Musou type of game, like for the Dynasty Warriors series. Now again, this is not a franchise I've ever really dabbled with. Dynasty Warriors or its themed spin-off, things like Hyrule Warriors or the Fire Emblem one I think there was as well, but you only have to look at a game like this to realise how amazingly well suited it is to the Bleach universe. Essentially, you are carving up numerous enemies, just hundreds of enemies on the screen, and you are cutting through them with relative ease, trying to build a high score. I think you have a selection of characters, a pool of fan favourite characters who each have their own amazing movesets. While I've never really had anything to do with the Dynasty Warriors franchise, I do like Zelda, and so I did have my eye on Hyrule Warriors, and it's just really cool to see these different characters come from all across the game, the series, get their different movesets, and again, this is something you could really do in the Bleach universe. I mean, it's just made for that kind of hack and slash gameplay. They all wield swords of some description, and I think that you could really pull this off quite well. I think the roster would be smaller. The roster of playable characters would be smaller than it would be in a traditional arcade fighter, which is my main reservation, because what I want most from a new premium Bleach game is a roster of characters that spans the entire story. That is what I want most. I want to be able to use the Sternritter in a game. I think that would be so cool. As I mentioned, that was my main tie to Bleach Brave Souls, was being able to use my boy Askin actually in a playable state. Now, as limited as Brave Souls actually is, it was a great starting point. I'd love to see him and others with a full moveset. Now, with a Musou-style game like this, I think you're less likely to get a huge plethora of characters, but I certainly think you would get a decent chunk of the fan favourites, and it would work really well, again, against the backdrops of Soul Society, Waco Mundo, the Vandenreich, Quincy, Ice City, the Soul King's Palace, just taking out legions of enemies. I think would work perfectly. Not to mention, Bleach characters are well known for their immensely flashy attacks, their over-the-top, stylish styles of fighting, which is, you know, how Kubo built his fights in the manga itself, so I'd love to see that brought to life in a new game on the screen. But my pie-in-the-sky pick, my Hail Mary, the one I am fairly certain we won't get, but is what I would want the most, is a Souls-style Bleach game. And you know, Dark Souls, the From Software series, it's my favourite series in video games, and I think it would translate really well to Bleach. We've seen them take that Souls formula and use it in numerous different settings. Bloodborne, you know, is Victorian Gothic. Sekiro is kind of feudal Japan. Other series have taken that formula and used it in their own way as well, and I think it would work perfectly here. I think more than any other title in the series, you would be looking at Sekiro for inspiration. Not just because of the Japanese angle, but because of the intricate swordplay mechanics on display there. I would love a Bleach game with combat like Sekiro. I think that would be absolutely amazing. Clashing swords with your enemies, sparks flying everywhere as you try and stay on your toes, you counter them. But then, of course, you mix in the magic, the powers, the abilities that you find in other Souls games to really make it feel like you're playing a Bleach game. Another area this would probably take more inspiration from Sekiro than any other Souls game is the fact that you would probably just play as Ichigo, and therefore in that way it would be more akin to a character action game than a traditional role-playing game like you find in the other Souls series, maybe even something akin to the Ninja Gaiden games of the PS3, Xbox 360 generation. that could also be a template for a Bleach game as well. Really, any kind of crazy hack and slash sword game would work wonders in the Bleach universe. But when you go back to that idea of a Souls Bleach game, one of the main components of a Souls game, one of the main draws, is this idea of exploration, going through an interconnected, intricately designed world. Imagine the entire game set in Soul Society with shortcuts, secret passageways, incredible epic boss fights against the captains, and then hell, do a sequel in Waco Mundo and a third one in the Quincy City. I would be absolutely loving that. Like I said, that's my Hail Mary. I don't expect it at all, but that is what I would want to see the most. Reeling all that back in though, like I said, what I think is most likely is a modernized arcade-style fighter. And I think that would be absolutely wonderful. I've seen people throwing around developer names online. Developers like Arc System Works working on a Bleach game would be incredible to see. But I would just, at the end of the day, be really happy with pretty much anything at this point. You know, that's what it all boils down to. That's why at the slightest sign of the words Bleach console game, certain areas of the fan base were whipped up into a frenzy, and that's because this is something that we've really been waiting for a long time. Like, it made sense for the premium titles to kind of go away after the anime was, you know, finished. But now that it's resurging, now that it's back, it's time to bring back that arm of the Bleach medium as well. But that's it for my ramble on a potential Bleach game in the future. What kind of game would you like to see? Who would you like to see it include the most? If you can have one character to put in a Bleach game that isn't normally in a Bleach game, that hasn't been in a premium console Bleach game before, who would it be? For me, it would be Askin. I'd love to see what they do with his moveset in an up-to-date, modernized game. But let me know in the comments below who you'd like to see, and crucially, what type of game, what genre of game you would most want, and maybe what you most expect we could get as well. Because for me, there is a disparity there, but I'd be happy with anything at the end of the day. That's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, I'll catch you later. I'll see you then.